these stories of where I've been, and now I got to where I am. But these stories don't mean anything when you've got no one to tell them to. It's true, I was made for you. I climbed across the mountain tops, swam all across the ocean blue. I crossed over lands and I broke all rules, and baby I broke them all for you. Oh, because even when I was flat broke, you made me feel like a million bucks. You do. I was made for you.
This ain't a song for the broken hearted, a silent prayer for faith departed. I ain't gonna be just a face in the crowd. You're gonna hear my voice when I shout it out loud. It's my life, it's now or never. I ain't gonna live forever. I just wanna live when I'm alive. It's my life. My heart is like an open highway. I think I said I did it my way. I just wanna live when I'm alive. It's my life. This is for ones who stood their ground.
Hey, my love is gone, all upon the crimson trail. His drum at dawn, beating brimstone through the veil. Clear light through smoke and ash, and balmy seas where breakers crash and roll. Gentle soldier of my soul.
Moon is rising over me, out Calipan way. Light is trickling down the shore, leading me to find my way, 'cause I believe in her. Moon is rising, moon is falling, I believe in her. Moon is rising, moon is falling, I believe in her. I believe in her. I believe in your love. I believe in your love. I believe.
You know, I think Eric would want us to do something very unorthodox, and that is to celebrate his life. Would you please stand and give him a standing ovation? Thank you. And now I think he would want to sing to you, "We've Only Just Begun," because there's many things to experience today. I really want to take a moment to thank Donna Brickey and Christine Walsh for putting together this beautiful video, and to Woman Song for your presence and your beautiful harmonies and music here today. And most importantly, to each and every one of you who are here because your life has been touched by Eric, and that means that in return, your life has touched him. And today is an opportunity where we get to come together and share and create a tapestry of memory and of love. My name is Reverend Darlene Strickland, and it is my joy to be here with you today. I invite you to just simply close your eyes and join with me in an opening prayer. We enter into this day in the spirit of gratitude, giving thanks for what it means to understand the fullness of life and life well lived. We realize that it is in the one, God, all that is, in which we live and move and have our being. And that as the giver of life, there is also a sustainer, a comfort, a guide. And we recognize that this is a presence that is always present and available. May we be comforted in remembering that we are one spirit family. May the peace that passes all understanding be with each and every one of us today, as we honor the life and the memory of Eric, and as we bless him and release him onward in his soul's journey. We're grateful for the blessing of this day. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. I'd like to invite Eric's brother, Gary, to come forward and to share.
This is from Khalil Gibran's The Prophet on Death. For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance.
Those who have gone before us may know the answers to these questions. We who remain can only question. Eric, I hope you're listening. It took me all week to learn how to play this. 1, 2, 3. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would you be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. Would you hold my hand if I saw you in heaven, would you help me stand? If I saw you in heaven, I'll find my way through night and day, 'cause I know I just can't stay here in heaven. Time can bring you down, time can bend your knees. Time can break your heart, have you beg and please, beg and please. Beyond the door, there's peace, I'm sure. Oh, no, no, there'll be no more tears in heaven. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would it be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. 'Cause I know I don't belong here in heaven.
Wow, Dave De La Rosa and Light, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. Really, really beautiful. You know, sometimes I think it's important to state the obvious, and that is that an event like this is bittersweet. There's a bitterness that we share because of the loss, and there's a sweetness that we share because of what brings us here. It's what we hold in our hearts and what we feel holding us, and it's the love that comes out when we come together as family and extended family and chosen family in times like this. So thank you for your presence in creating this today. I think another gift that we receive when someone we love makes their transition is it's always a reminder for us to sort of check where we are in our own life, and are we living life to the fullness. In many of my conversations with Eric, he always talked about being the miracle man and having those additional few years and really being able to cherish and embrace life. And I think that he would encourage all of us today to say, go for it, go for the gusto and live for it and make the most of every moment that you have. So today we have a beautiful blending of many people that are part of Eric's life, have been touched by him in unique ways. And so we're going to have a creating of this tapestry, and then we'll open it up and have an opportunity for any of you to share at a point in the service. We'd like to begin with a poem by John Crosby, and Terry wanted me to explain something because you're going to hear John talk about the Exorcist. And many years ago, Eric worked in a movie theater as the projectionist. And in that day and age, you had to stay and watch every movie. So he had the joy of watching The Exorcist again and again and again, and never once did he enjoy it or not be frightened to death. So enjoy this poem by John Crosby.
It's a family tradition we've been doing for a while, where I write up a poem that I hope makes you smile. Laughter and jokes are my usual menu, but I must admit that this is a new change in venue. Now, I don't think Eric wants things overly sad. He would prefer you remember the good times you had. So eschewing the somber and cast aside all the glum, here are the moments you remembered as fun. I'm told growing up he took Freddie as a nickname, and there were invisible friends on which he could blame. A broken glass door that required Boy Scouts first aid, oh meanie manie mongo, and the problems they made. Those miscreants three and the things they could do, they managed to abscond once with a stolen canoe. Imagination, it seems, made this schooner quite special, or a water trough was it, this seaworthy vessel? As he started to grow up, he started to work. Not at McDonald's, or as a grocery store clerk. He sorted potatoes. If you think that's groovy, he had the best job out there. He projected the movies. As he started to grow up, his skills started to grow. He had more skills and talents that he started to show. Mathing and puzzles were all easy as pie. If you need a building with power, then he was your guy. If you knew him, you knew he had his own set of quirks. He liked his jokes punny, and he had a billion Hawaiian shirts. Although he liked tuna salad, he hated things fishy, and when you cooked up his bacon, you cooked it extra crispy. If he could change up the world, if he were given some wishes, maybe start out with fish no longer smelling like fishes. On pizza, there'd be nothing but the cheese and the meat, nor would he ever have cold or wet feet. Not too much he'd change, not too much he missed. He could have done with a little less exorcist. One final thing that he'd change pretty fast, he'd keep the government away from collecting his cash. There are special places that you can still hold close. If you're out on a lake, maybe he's guiding your boat. If you hear the wind blowing through the northeast trees, the Adirondacks might be where you can find some peace. So remind yourself each chance you get. With each reminder you can't forget, the change in seasons, the times you had, 3 special friends and merit badges, blaming Fred for makeshift boats, the little things, the smallest jokes, the crispy bacon, that or this potato sorting, the exorcist, cheating taxes, Willy Woney, the Disneyland, the double bogeys, crashing through a glass pane door, pizza veggies that he abhorred, what lights you up, what makes you care, be smarter than your average bear. On behalf of Crosby's and to conclude, I think Eric wants a lighter mood. By all means mourn and shed the tears, but humor me and take this as cheer. Though the light today is admittedly dimmed, he'd prefer you smile and laugh like him. But don't be dismayed with goodbyes between friends. Goodbyes are needed before you see someone again.
Barb Freeman, Eric's sister, and John Freeman, Eric's nephew, would you both come up? That reminded me when my partner and I moved here from Seattle, Eric wrote this beautiful song similar to one you would find on the Beverly Hillbillies, but the whole church sang it when we arrived because he charted out every state that we drove through. So I think he would truly appreciate that poem. Barb.
It's always best to start at the beginning and go from there. I'm going to tell you about the Eric before you knew him. Eric, or Freddie as we knew him as a child, first lived on Jane Street in Caledonia, which is a small town outside of Rochester, New York. For Christmas one year, we got a Lionel train set. You can imagine as a budding electrician what fun that would be. About the age of 4, he showed Mom his electrical prowess by taking apart and putting back together the plug on her toaster cord. Yes, the toaster worked. As a youngster, Freddie had a big imagination. Since Brother Gary was so young, Freddie made up imaginary playmates that started around for several years. Gary remembers 3, I remember 2, but by similar names. I remember Mangy and Mongo, and Freddie playing on the floor by the front door. You had to be very careful not to step in the lake or on Mangy or Mongo. As an adult, he informed me that he was Mangy. When he was about 5, we moved from Jane Street to Cedar Springs. You saw some of the old pictures. Cedar Springs were the 2. Cedar Springs was a special place. It used to be a private park, which was either purchased or given to the state to be used as a fish hatchery. I don't remember how many acres it was, but it was a lot, like 50 or 60, most of it woods. The house was small, especially for a family of 4 growing children, about 20 by 30, with a bedroom, living, and walkout basement. Across the driveway from the house was a very large yard, and on the far side of that was a good-sized pond. The water from that pond was spring-fed and was used to feed all of the fish ponds and raceways, so the water stayed at a nearly constant temperature. Cold. At the end of the pond were 3 cabins used for sleeping, playing, and storage. Then was the time that Freddie was... Sorry, I skipped a page. It was during this period that Eric became a Boy Scout. He learned how to make fires and did so one day behind the cabins with his best friend who'd come to play with him across the farm fields between our house and his. They convinced Brother Gary that it wouldn't hurt for him to step on a rock that they'd heated in the fire. They did have the afterthought to have Gary put his face in the cold water of the pond. Then there was the time that Freddie was teasing Gary with a football, ran through the door of the walkout basement, up the steps, and hid the football on him. Don't remember how long it was, but the football was finally located when Mom went to cook something in the stove oven that never had anything kept in it. Or the time that Freddie was being chased by Gary for some reason and ran out the front door, and instead of pushing the storm door back open, Gary put his arm through the glass and cut his arm. Mom grabbed his arm just above the cut, saving a tendon, I believe, told our sister to grab the car keys, she had just gotten her learner's permit, and drive to the doctor's office about 5 miles away, where they got Gary's arm stitched up. These 2 stories could possibly be connected, I'm not sure, but the running pattern is the same. As a park before and after it became the hatchery, it was used as a picnic destination for families. The most major picnic was for a local company that would take over an entire weekend. I remember they filled these large aluminum troughs, about 2 foot by 2 foot by 6 foot, with ice for soda and beer. And I believe it might have been one of these troughs left for the hatchery that Brother Gary remembers Freddie turning into a makeshift canoe, using boards as oars to go from one side of the pond to the other. We would walk along the paths of the park, reading the fading sayings painted on the rocks or the boulders along them. Freddie's and mine was, I wish I were a great big rock, a setting on a hill. I'd sat and sat and be there, a setting still. We were remembering this just a few months ago. In 1963, Dad got a promotion to the Chateauguay hatchery in Chateauguay, New York, which is about an hour south of Montreal. Fred, then in high school, or almost in high school, dropped the DY, took up the clarinet, and played in the school band, and that was just his start of the love of music. He held a variety of jobs in the village. Imagine a bowling alley with 6 lanes, league bowling, open bowling, no automatic pin setting machines. Fred was the pin setter and quickly learned how to jump out of the way of an oncoming ball, pick up the fallen pins, put them in place for the next frame, and move on to the next lane to do it all over again. League players were appreciative of the fact that he could keep up with them. A couple of floors up from the bowling alleys was the town movie theater. Fred was the projectionist, continuing his love of anything electronic. Only when he was there, it was movie reels that had to be changed from one to the next. He taught me how to look for the dot that indicated that it was time to stop one projector and start up the next one so as not to overlap portions of the movie. And in between, he had to rewind, put in the next film, and be ready to switch. If you're careful, when watching an old movie on TV, you can still see the dots. After high school, each of his 4 kids worked at summer jobs at a private club in the Adirondack Mountains near Lake Placid. Corinne and I worked inside, and Fred and Gary worked on the grounds. A big portion of the grounds was a 9-hole golf course, and that's where Fred learned to play golf and fell in love with it. He also enjoyed learning to play tennis, particularly with one elderly woman who wore a tennis skirt with no underwear. When husband Gary and I were married, he took our LPs and transferred all of the songs we wanted played onto reel-to-reel tapes, and those were played for hours while we all danced at our reception. Years passed, and Fred moved to California, where he continued his love of working with electronics at Disneyland. In 1982, he drove east, arriving just in time for our parents' 40th anniversary party at our home outside of Albany, New York. We were expecting them, but Mom and Dad were not. Arrival was announced when he put a cabbage the size of a basketball in front of Dad and gave Mom a bear hug. Several years after that, he purchased and renovated electronic arcade video games. He had them placed at business locations for miles around his home, and he'd have a rote to make sure that they were working properly and to collect the quarters. Only thing was, not all were quarters. One time when we lived outside of Rochester, New York, with our 3 kids, Fred came for a visit. He brought with him this huge jug full of non-quarters. We went with him and a cousin and his family to Chuck E. Cheese's, where all the kids had an absolute ball with the tokens people had put in the video game machines. I think he had more fun watching the kids, as much fun as the kids had playing the games. After video games, he moved on to wiring homes and businesses. It was around this time that he stopped using Fred and switched to using his middle name, Eric. My Gary was in California on a business trip and remembers going to a warehouse. Eric had stripped of the old wiring and put in an entirely new electrical system and the wiring to go with it. Needless to say, he was impressed. Eric also continued his love of music. He taught himself to play the guitar and wrote music and lyrics. Eric would always bring his guitar when he came for a visit and play for whoever was around. Family reunions, funerals. He wound up playing anything and everything. He wound up combining his love of electronics and music by buying and selling electronic music equipment on eBay. And then came that awful diagnosis 3.5 years ago, cancer. I can still remember him saying to me that Dad had only had pre-cancer prostate cancer diagnosis back in the early 80s. I said, no, it was full-blown cancer, and he had it successfully treated with radiation. Eric said, I wish I had known that. Maybe I would have paid more attention to my symptoms. These past 3 years were so rough on him, ups and downs, ins and outs. After seeing him a couple of years ago, I admit I could not bring myself to visit him again, even after moving from New Jersey to North Carolina. I've seen the changes in too many people ravaged by cancer over the years, particularly our Grandpa Russ and our sister Corinne, and couldn't face it, my brother. We talk on the phone a lot more often than we ever did before. I hope it sufficed for him as much as it did for me. In December, it was a toss-up as to whether Corinne or Eric would go first. Corinne lost her nearly 2-decade-long breast cancer battle in January, and Eric his a month ago. May they both rest in peace.
when he got sick, hurt to pain, now he has no more pain. With his parents and older sister, he is a very distant person. He loved music, like jokes. He liked to make jokes and make people laugh. Thank you.
Diane Tower Jones.
I'm honored to be Terry's voice for this moment. This is what Terry would like to say to all of you. So I'm here to channel my soul sister. At the end of life, things get really simple. Did I say and do what I wanted to do? Did I become the person I wanted to be? When Eric went into hospice the first time in 2014, he asked himself those questions, and his answers were a resounding no. No, I haven't done what I came here to do. At hospice, he made it clear to everyone he planned to get well and go home. To everyone's astonishment, he did just that. He made a miraculous 180-degree turn and went home. He played golf. He built his business. He paid more attention to his true priorities. But let me back up. This journey with Eric has been a long and winding road. Just so you know, Eric was the kind of person who went to the doctor about every 25 years. In 2012, Eric's pain became a central part of our lives. Despite my pleas to have his pain checked out, he didn't. So finally, I did the most loving thing I could think of. I took him to the doctor. He was immediately referred to a urologist who informed Eric that he didn't have much time to live and he should get his affairs in order. After spending time over the 2013 holidays in Pardee Hospital, Eric was released to Elizabeth House in the new year. There was just one problem. Eric wasn't ready to die. He had things yet to do. Late one evening in hospice, when things were especially gloomy, I reached out to a hospice nurse. I asked her if anyone ever came out of hospice alive. She paused for a good while. Then she said, "Yes, I have seen it, but it is rare." I asked her to tell me a little more about that. She said, "It's like this. If a soul isn't ready to go, the soul doesn't go. Something will happen. Something will happen that makes no sense to the doctors. It's not logical. No one will be able to explain it." Then she smiled and said, "This makes the nurses very happy." As people were stopping by to say their goodbyes, Eric continued to inform his visitors that he was getting better and going home. Those of us around him smiled politely because we knew better. There seemed to be such clear evidence that he wasn't going home. It seemed impossible. Then we began to witness a miracle. He seemed to re-enter his body. He woke up. He was more present. He asked to have his nasogastric tube removed. The nurse could hardly speak. When she found words, she finally said, "Here at hospice, we follow your wishes. If you want it out, we'll take it out. I just want you to be fully aware that we don't put nasogastric tubes back in." Eric once again assured her that he wanted the tube out. The nurse said, "Okay, as a first step, how about if we turn off the pump for a few hours and just see how you do with that." Eric agreed. To everyone's total astonishment, step 1 went well. They even did a second trial run, which was also successful. Then they removed the tube. After the tube was removed, Eric announced that he was hungry and wanted food. The nurse immediately brought him a tray of clear liquids. He drank juice and milk, but declared the broth undrinkable. He politely repeated his request for real, solid food. So the nurse brought him a complete meal, which he happily consumed. After 11 days total, he graduated from hospice and prepared to go home. As I was helping him into the car, a nurse expressed her astonishment about how he was expected to die, but had surprised everyone. Eric smiled and said with a twinkle, "Good thing I didn't get that memo." When we got home that day, Eric and I talked for the rest of the morning. That morning is one of my favorite times I ever spent with him in our 17 years together. We had a full-down funny conversation about how being in total denial can work to one's advantage. Eric didn't remember the talks with the doctors or the results of the x-rays or MRIs that were presented to him. He never believed in the diagnosis he'd been given. Sometimes not getting the memo can be a fortunate thing. Eric was able to live a little more than 3 years after that. What a gift that was. He ate his favorite foods, played golf, visited with more friends, said, "I love you," more often. He built his LifeVantage business. That's what he wanted to do, and that's what he did. I've learned a lot living with Eric. For one thing, it's clear to me that Eric had honor. To have honor means you do the right thing, whether or not you feel like it. The personality doesn't guide you. Instead, higher consciousness leads the way. During the years that Eric was in severe pain, I cannot begin to tell you how many times he did what he considered to be the right thing, even though he could easily and rightfully have said, "I don't feel like it." Given them circumstances, I would have thrown in the towel years ago. Eric is the strongest, most determined person I've ever met. At 3:38 a.m. on March 25th, the day he passed away, he called to me from his bed. He couldn't say words, but he could make sounds. I went to his side and said, "Hi, sweetheart, it's me, Terry." He lifted his eyebrows, as if he was seeing me with his inside eyes. That was his way of telling me he knew I was there. I held his hand to see what he wanted to communicate. I listened. He went on in an urgent way. When he quieted, I took my turn. I reassured him that it was okay with me for him to go, that I would be fine and that I had loved my life with him. I thanked him for everything I could think of, especially for loving me, for being with me, for laughing with me. I went on and on. There was such sweetness between us. He was silent, but I'm sure he heard every word because his eyebrows told me. I reminded him that big families of people loved me and would look after me. Our Unity family of a few hundred people, for instance, and Women's Song, another 75 women. Then there was his family, and my family, and his friends, and my friends. I would be well taken care of and well loved. I assured him. I would find my way with the help of all these generous people. Our conversation lasted 30 beautiful minutes. I went back to my bed and rested, but didn't sleep. About 8:30 a.m., my favorite nurse, Heather Beckett, and I were helping Eric be more comfortable. After that was finished, Heather and I walked out of the room together, and Eric passed away in the 1 minute between us leaving and the next nurse coming in. The nurses asked my daughter Mackenzie and me if we wanted to spend a few minutes with Eric before they cleaned and changed him. We said yes. I will never forget the feeling in the room when we walked in. I would call it boundless joy and tumbling love, all wrapped into one. Whatever it was big. The intense joy caused both of us to stop and feel it fully. Mackenzie's eyes went on high beam as she turned to me and said, "Mom, do you feel that?" I said, "Yes, wow, I hadn't expected this." But there it was, big, beautiful joy, free as a bird, joy. We basked in it, we bathed in it. We felt the presence of divine love. Eric was no longer in a single location. He was everywhere. After the nurses freshened everything, Mackenzie and her husband John and I spent a luxurious amount of time with Eric. In all my years, I had never done that before. I had never spent time with a person after they had passed. With Eric, I wanted to do things differently. Catherine Young and Ruth Ostrenger of the Center for the End of Life Transitions helped us do things differently. They taught us how to wrap him, similar to how you might swaddle a baby. We wrapped Eric in his favorite blanket and placed beautiful woodland flowers in his hands and on his heart. We also put on his favorite slippers, because Eric had a thing about slippers. He never walked anywhere without his slippers. We told stories, we laughed, we cried, and we thanked Eric for all that we loved most about him. It was beautiful. There was so much peace in the room. What would Eric want me to say to you on his behalf right now? He would say, live your life. He would say, don't spend too much time on shoulds and musts and have-tos. Do what you want to do and give others the grand chance to get over themselves. He would say, speak your truth. Say what you mean and mean what you say. He would say, do what you came here to do. Be who you came here to be. Thank you for loving Eric. Thank you for loving me through this journey. It has meant the world to me. Nothing is more important than loving each other.
That's tough to follow. Thank you so much, Gary. I'll grab the mic in a sec. First thing I'm going to do is take a seat. And I don't have my Hawaiian shirt because it's wore out, so I'm just going to untuck this one here. And my name's Fred Hodgins, and my wife Shirley, she couldn't be with us. I'm from Ontario, Canada, and I might need more Kleenexes, but she wanted to be here, but our youngest daughter's expecting twins, so she wanted to stay close to home. And when I first met Eric, it was around 10, 11 years ago, and we were both involved in network marketing, and I gave him a phone call to check out a company that we were both kind of involved with. I'd never met him, I'd never talked to him before. I lived in Ontario, as I said, and he was in California. And I asked him to do me a favor. It's kind of interesting, we'd never met, and I asked him if he'd drive over to the company and just see if things had changed. And we developed a friendship from that one phone call. So, just proves one phone call can make a difference, can change your life. So, that started a partnership and a friendship. It set up our future, brought us tons of friends, meaningful relationships, impacted thousands of people, and the ripple effect of what Eric started is going to continue on for generations. I remember the first time when he went into hospice, and it was just a couple days, and Terry had called and said, it's close to the end, and she had to hold the phone. He was so weak, and I spoke to him on the phone, and kind of just said, we'd set up a legacy. This was 3 years ago, and she'd be fine, and I don't even remember everything I said, but at the end of it, I said, all right, that's the last time I'm going to say that, so you can go ahead and get better. And he did, right? And it just started as in Terry's story as she read that. And so Eric had a heart of gold. I had to make a few notes, as you can kind of understand. I couldn't get, I'm not a speaker, so I have some notes here. So, but Eric grew to be much more than a business partner and one of my very best friends. He was someone I could always count on. Anytime, day or night, Eric had a heart of gold and was a man of integrity, of passion, of character, and love, and I have that in capital letters. In business, he always looked out for the other person. He was connected and concerned to find out what was important to them, why it was important, and then help them believe in themselves. He taught me the difference between the golden rule, and we've all heard the golden rule. It's do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. So it's more about yourself. And the platinum rule is treat others the way they want to be treated. Right? So you think about that. Treat others the way that they want to be treated. As a leader, Eric was meticulous about words. He was a wordsmith. Right? I'm not too good with words, but he taught me so much about the importance of words. And he cared how you use those words. Anyone that's worked with him or know him, he cared how you framed the words around you, what you attracted. He'd coach people over and over to say what you want, to attract what you want, to frame your words. And then he would correct you. But he'd correct you and want you to say it. He'd want you to repackage it back to them. When I was looking through the yearbook, and it was one of the slides, and I didn't know he was valedictorian. I wasn't valedictorian. But Eric was valedictorian, and in the yearbook, so what are we, 18 years old then, right? He's leisure. Think about, as an 18-year-old, right in the yearbook, I was just amazed. Leisure is a time for doing something useful. Right? In 1970 in the yearbook. So Eric wanted everyone to find their bliss. When you found your bliss, you found your purpose. And when you found your purpose, your work was no longer work, but it was your passion. And for Eric, it was his bliss to see you find your joy, to find your strength, your meaning in your life, your purpose. And he said, that's what turns me on. That's what turned him on, to see the light go on in people's eyes when he teaches seminars, to see that, to see them get it, and to people get their bliss. And again, I have that capitalized. So Eric always put other people first. When he was in hospice, he'd ask me how my dad was, right? How's your mom? And I'm like, wow, like, how do you do that? But he always did. So I could go on and on, but I won't. But I'd like to teach you one lesson that Eric taught me and others that he mentored. And it's not a difficult lesson, and you don't even need to write this one down. So if you're ready, the lesson is titled Oops. Just say oops. You know, when you make a mistake, when you don't beat yourself up. When you mess up, don't beat yourself. Just say oops. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself and move on. Say oops about the big things or the little things. Many people carry the baggage of the past along with them. Message is forgive yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself, and just say oops and move on. Forgive yourself so you can forgive others. So Mr. Frederick Eric Russ, I knew him as Eric for the whole time. It's funny, I knew him for probably a couple years before he told me his first name was Fred, the same as mine. But we're kind of two peas in a pod. He's one of my mentors. So I'll miss you today, and I'm going to miss you every day. So thanks for all you've done and you've taught me, and for your heart, for your love and your compassion. You made me a better man. So thank you. So folks, from Eric to you, the little things matter. Words matter. Connect with people. Love people. But most of all, just say oops.
I'm Scott Donaldson. I was the physician who 3 years ago, I don't think I said, get your affairs in order. I probably did. He remembers words like that, and I don't. We do business in these 10 by 10 rooms, and you have no idea the impact of who you're touching. I talked to Eric, and I talked to 100 people. This is overwhelming. I came to know him. I knew he was an electrician. I just thought he was an electrician. Didn't know he was a singer, a writer, a valedictorian. It's amazing what you learn, what you don't know. I'll tell you that first room, though, first time, it's fate or providence. That's the word I like, or luck would have it. He stumbled into my office about 3 years ago, and I just looked at the stuff on the paper. I've done this long enough. And I said, we got a problem here. And he looked at me and said, no, we don't. My back hurts. I'm going to play better golf when my back quits hurting. I'm going to take some mushrooms and I'm going to be fine. I swear. I never saw it. And that was it. He walked out. 2 weeks later, my partner, Dr. DeHall, who took over much of his care, he said to me, what did you say to that guy to make him so mad? Like, what are you talking about? Well, this guy that's got this thing. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I just told him it was bad. He goes, well, he didn't want to ever see you again. It turns out, Terry said, he was so mad at you, he didn't want to talk to me for a week. He owed me $40 and he wouldn't pay. And it wasn't even affected me. It's going to Pardee Hospital. I work for Pardee. Pardee still pays me. But so that was it for about a year and a half for me. I had no idea. He goes into hospice, and I'd like to say he came out of hospice because he was angry at me. But that might be unfair. Or it might be fair. I don't know. Well, I didn't even see him for another year and a half. I forgot all about this, as we do in my business. It's it's just what we do, and it feels cold, and it sounds cold, but it's how we get through. And about a year and a half later, as Providence, fate would have it, I get called to see him in the hospital. He's sick. And he looked at me and said, I really don't want to talk to you. I said, well, I don't even remember him at this point. And so he gets on the phone with Terry and says, Dr. Donaldson is here, and he wants to do something. And what do you think? And she's like, whatever. And you can wait on Dr. DeHall. He's wonderful. But he's going to be a week. He's on vacation. It's me or you got to suffer. And so we started a relationship again. And I met Terry after surgery. And I remember her, after I kind of explained things, she looked me dead in the eye and said, you are absolutely full of shit, aren't you? Is that right or not? And she probably said that to me about half a dozen times. So one time, this is true, he gets put back in the hospital because we're past that first hospice phase. What kind of stuff we do doesn't work. And I get called, he's in the hospital, he's sick, and he's in pain. And the pain pills aren't working because these narcotics are just terrible drugs. And he said, what can you do about this pain? I said, well, you need to get some medicinal marijuana. And she looked at me and said, where am I going to get that? We have children, don't you? Ask your kids. Or you can ask my kids. They will know. So it turns out that a whole pretzel is too much, but half a pretzel is fine. And they would come back in the office a number of times, and I would just say, I'm just going to, and I've learned this over the word, you don't want to, how you approach hospice, I'd forgotten using hospice once already. And how you approach hospice is very touchy in our world. And so I just say, I'm going to say a word, and if it makes you mad, let's just ignore it, and we don't have to do it. That word, so I said, I'm going to say the word hospice, no. And then as time went on, I said, I want to ask you about no. I didn't even get the word hospice. And eventually it was hospice, yes. And I guess we were in and out a couple times. I can't remember. They were towards the end. But I will say on my side, I probably only spent an hour and a half. My total encounter, maybe 2 hours total. But the grinding of the gears of relationships, the smoke, it just brings glory as we persist in it. And as I tell everybody, my patients who are in, I tell everybody, these bodies, they fail us. These souls, they don't. Tell people you love that you love them. Drink good wine. Don't watch Fox News. Listen to... Hey, you know why she's falling out of? You know why I wear this jacket right here? There's a man of color who sells clothes in Hendersonville, and I'm the smallest. He sells it usually to the deacons, the first deacons. They're XXLs and X. But people of color know how to celebrate, and that's why I wear these jackets on occasion. So tell the people you love them. Listen to good music. Drink expensive wine. Thank you very much.
Eric loved Hawaiian shirts. He would love that. And in Hawaii, they say speak softly and wear a loud shirt. So yeah. So this is the opportunity for you to share. And so I'd like to begin. Was there anyone else who Terry told you were full of shit? You may want to get that over with. Since that's already been thrown out there. Reverend Christy Corna is going to be taking the mic. Mackenzie.
Mm-hmm. I'm Eric's stepdaughter, and I'm going to do this right after you because now we're laughing, and that's good. Because I just want to say thank you so much for being here, and it is so wonderful how many people are here. It's not surprising because that's Eric, and you just couldn't get him to shut up sometimes, so he just made friends with everybody. I just feel so much appreciation. And I didn't really prepare anything. I made some notes just now, but I just felt like every time this week I tried to think about what I would say, it just felt totally not right to prepare anything. So I didn't, because I felt like if I wanted to say something, I would say it. And that's kind of how Eric rolled. So, yeah. I just want to say that he's taught me so much. And so much of it I was aware of while he was here, but so much more of it I feel aware of in light of everything. And it's amazing how that happens, and it's an enormous gift. It's a really enormous gift. And some of the things that I remember him saying all the time are, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So it's always worth trying it out, see how it goes. And also don't take any wooden nickels every time. Like, if I would call him from LA while I was living there and they were here, he'd be like, don't take any wooden nickels at the end of the conversation. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Dad. Amongst, smarter than your average bear, if you said something about, oh, well, great job. Thank you, I'm smarter than the average bear, he would say, that doesn't make you sound smart, but okay. Why would you say that? I don't know. Something that you didn't mention in your piece, Mom, was that I just feel like it's really important to let everyone know, because I know not everyone was visited him in hospice the first time, but the first time that he was in hospice, he was playing guitar in the hospice bed, and he weighed, I think, less than I did at that point. I don't even think that's an exaggeration. It was scary, and I couldn't even believe he could sit up, hold a guitar, had strength in his hands to play. Like, what? I'm learning guitar, and I'm in pain. Like, I don't know how he did that, but he was so committed to that, and it's so inspirational for somebody to just decide that their inner world and their inner reality is the truth for them. So I wanted to mention that he did that. And this time that he was in hospice, spent so much time with him, which was beautiful. It was so wonderful. And I found myself just so appreciative of the amount of well-being that can actually exist in a place like hospice, given everything that goes on there. But there's so much care and tenderness and love, and it's amazing. And before he was on more and more medication, in the days where he was still able to talk pretty well, I was not spending the night there, but I was spending a lot of time during the day there, and I just said, we just would have conversations before I would leave, and he said, he kept reminding me, and on one night in particular, I remember him reminding me that he said, just, go out and do something with your friends, or, he just kept reminding me to live my life outside of hospice while this was going on. And I didn't want him to feel like he was an obligation, so I kept saying, it's fine, it's not a big deal, I'm really happy to be here. It's no big deal. I kept saying, it's fine, meaning like, it's okay, don't worry about it. Of course I'll do that, And I just remember him sort of looking over at me slowly and saying, it's kind of a big deal. Like, go, like, to live your life. He's kind of a big deal. And then I just started laughing. And I just feel like that's the biggest thing I can continue to take away from this experience and live out in this experience, is that he, life was such a big deal to him. And I just love hearing everybody sort of say that repeatedly, because it really is what he gave a shit about, was that people lived and expressed themselves and laughed and didn't take it too seriously. And we could all take things so seriously. And that's the other thing I want to say, is just that he wouldn't want it to get too heavy in here. So even though it's a memorial service and it's sad and we're all crying, and I hate when emotional music plays, it just makes me angry. I'm already so prone to just crying if, my hair looks bad, and not really, that's not really me, but I'm already prone to tears easily because I'm emotional. It's my mother's fault. And she's emotional. It's just all out there with us, and, Eric, I don't know how he put up with that, but he did. And so he just would want it to be a really fun time in spite of everything. So I'm really glad that we can make space for the tears, and we can make space for the the sadness that we feel, and there's room for that, but it also needs to be a really fun time. And the reason that we played that Bon Jovi song was because I said, no, this music is too sad. We need to put some rock in here. So I hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate everyone being here, and it's really cool to see how he touched everybody's lives throughout time, because I only knew him since I was, 10, 11 years old. But it's so wonderful. Thank you so much.
I don't know that I need this. All right. I met Eric and Terry about 7 or 8 years ago, before I had 7 or 8 back surgeries. And I was doing, building homes for Habitat, and I was at one house managing the saw, and Eric was at another house. And at lunch, we all sat together, and he brought food that Terry had made. And he wanted to share it with everyone and told everyone how wonderful she was at cooking. And, he just kept going. I mean, most guys, when they're on a construction job, they're not talking about how wonderful their partner is. And he just kept going on and on and on. And I said, so how long have you been together? I really thought that he'd say, like, 5 or 6 months. And he said, we've been together about 9 or 10 years. 10 years! And I was just like, I just stopped in my tracks. I couldn't believe it. And later, Terry was giving relationship classes, and I said, man, I'm getting into one of these. So he just, I was just amazed that a man could be so much in love with someone. 10 years. It just blew my mind, and I just kind of had hope that maybe something like that would happen for me. So anyway, anybody else?
Eric was always a very supportive person. That was one of the things he was most about, is supporting people and helping people. He was also very fun-loving, just always had a joke, usually a very bad pun. But he did always have a joke, and I recruited him to be in the Unity Plays Broadway shows that we did here, and he'd do anything. I had him dressed up in a gown and a tiara, singing My Sisters at one point, so he was always game and willing to play the fool for the enjoyment of others, which is a wonderful quality. The first time I think that I met him, he was doing a workshop here, and I'm not sure if it was the title, but the crux of it is what makes you light up? What makes you excited? Somebody else alluded to that already. What makes you excited to be here, to be on the planet? What makes you really sing and bounce about? And Eric was also a songwriter, so I pulled out a couple of his song lyrics, and I thought I don't remember the melodies, sorry, but I can read you the lyrics because they're very meaningful. And this first one was called Some Other Guy's Work. The pilot's employed as a plumber while the teacher earns keep as a clerk. They hear the beat of the wrong drummer as they march to some other guy's work. The doctor's been driving a limo, and the salesman been stuck in research. If only they'd look through the window, they'd quit doing that other guy's work. Our lives could be simple if we'd live our dreams. Instead, we've been badly deceived. We've filled up our lives full of angles and schemes. We are living the lies we've believed. Oh, the farmer serves time as a sailor. The oceans will drive him berserk. It's not as though he's a failure. He's just caught in that other guy's work. The poet pounds nails in construction, while the actor's been cast as a cook. They are sowing the seeds of destruction just by doing that other guy's work. Well, our lives would be magic if we'd be ourselves, if to our own souls we'd be true. Instead, our true passions get pent up on shelves. We forget what we've come here to do. Yes, the pilot's employed as a plumber, while that teacher earns keep as a clerk. They hear the beat of the wrong drummer as they march, 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 march to some other guy's work, some other guy's work, some other guy's work. Yes, so find your passion and follow it. Let your light shine. And here's another one. As he went through this whole process, one of the things he was teaching us was to savor the day, cherish the moment that you have, and stretch it out an extra 3 years if you can. right? Yeah. So this one was called Count Your Blessings. Count your blessings, for you never know when they may end. Live each minute to its fullest, then live in the moment once again. For we never really know just which moment is our last. We may not have a future. We cannot live our past. Our tomorrows don't never come. We can only count on today, and soon enough, today will slip away. Some see passion as a weakness, but I see it as a gift. To imagine a life without it is to see a spirit set adrift. So let us share our gifts full off. Let us share our gifts full well. Treasure every tiny tingle, then savor every swell. As our bodies fill with life, feel your spirit start to glow. Embrace that light within you. Can you feel it as it grows? So keep living every moment, cherish each one as it comes, and our lives will fill with passion with each rising of the sun. Oh, our days here pass so quickly, and our children grow so soon. Treasure every precious moment, for there's none of us immune to the fates that time may bring us in our lifetime's afternoon. Who can really know for certain how many verses in their tune? So count your blessings, for you never ever know just when they may end. Live each minute to its fullest, then live in the moment once again. Live each minute to its fullest, then live in the moment once again. Rest in peace, Eric.
I'm going to get on the stage because some people fear singing or speaking before an audience. That's not my problem. Okay? Thank you, Fred. My name is Michael Haney, and my wife back here is Janelle Haney. There's probably, other than people that are related to our very good friend, close family, have not known him as long as we have. Okay? Between Harvey Connor, my wife, and ourselves, we've known him for about 25, 27, 28 years. Wouldn't you say, Harvey? We met in a network marketing company. And this was back in Los Angeles. We were getting ready to travel to Tahiti, actually to Moorea, as part of a company benefit that we had earned. And I'm sitting in the airport with my wife, and up this guy approaches me, and he goes, "Hi, my name is Fred." He called himself Fred then. "My name is Fred Russ." And I introduced myself. He says, "I know who you are." He says, "And we're going to get to be very good friends." He had some kind of vision even then, that we were going to become very good friends, and we actually did. We had a very, very good time in Tahiti. We palled around there, and we came to find out that we worked very well together. And so from that point forward, when we got back to doing business, he and I teamed up, and we traveled all over our marketing area doing trainings and meetings together as a duet. And I want to tell you folks, he made me better then, and even during the hiatus after that particular opportunity ended. And we kept in touch with each other over the years. And he would always call me to tell me, oh, I got this thing here. I got that thing there. And I go, I'm not interested, because after the other thing went away, I really wasn't interested in doing it anymore. And I went back to my profession as a financial planner. But then he called me up in February of 2013. And he says, I got something I want you to see. And I go, oh, God, here we go again. But because of our friendship and our love for each other and respect for each other, I took a look. And when I took a look, I thought, okay, I think you finally found it this time. And so we started working together again. But here's the thing. Eric was always about what's in it for you. What can I do to help you? Okay? And I think everybody here probably knows that. So he helped me even when I thought I knew everything. Okay? And he kept reminding me that I didn't. Okay? And that business about correcting that Fred talked about, he was always correcting me. Always. And I'm much older. You know? And I thought I was smarter. But no, Eric is very smart. I didn't know he was the valedictorian. That was news to me. That sort of takes my smartness down another level again. So I want to tell you that we miss him very, very, very much. And when he got sick the first time, he called me and to tell me, listen, I've got a training meeting and I got to do up here in Hendersonville. I'd like you to come up and do it. So my wife and I, we actually came up. We spent a couple of days in the house. And I'll tell you, when I saw him, he had lost all this weight and everything. And I said, oh my God. I said, this is it. And my wife says, who's very spiritual, she's way more spiritual than me, I can tell you that. She says, he's not going anywhere. I'm telling you, that's what she said. And I said, oh, okay, she's... I mean, can't she? What's wrong with her? Is she blind? Can't she see what I see? You know. So I did the meeting. He goes into hospice. He comes out of hospice, and my wife says, see? I told you he didn't get the memo. Okay? And so for the next 3 years, you know, and the way our system works, it's like when we introduce somebody to what we're doing, we then enlist the help of one of our upline support business partners, whether it was Eric or Fred or Harvey, Dave Marquis, and we let them tell the story to the person, even though we might be capable of doing it. And even as Eric was getting sicker, I would call him up and I go, Eric, do you feel like doing a 3-way today? Oh, yeah, no problem. And I would go, yeah, exactly, that's the word, wow. And we would do it. And he would do the most fantastic job. So I want to tell you, he even though he may have faded from here, and don't feel sad. I'm going to tell you what my mom told me before she passed. She said, don't cry. Don't shed no tears for me. She said, because the fact of the matter is that that's selfish. Selfish. I'll be going on to a better place. And the only reason that you'll feel sad is because you won't see me physically anymore. But I'll be here with you. He is here with us. He will be here with us always. And we love him. He came to be a brother to me. And I'm going to miss him so much. Thank you.
Christy, there's one over here.
Should I go in front? stand right there.
My name's Philip, and I had no one thought I'd be saying a word, but Tarek and I, and Terry, and eventually Nancy drew us together was where we live. We live on one of the most beautiful places in western North Carolina, Ridge. I call it Abbey Ridge. It's called Abbey Lane, but between our houses are more than a few hundred feet apart. But when you look out of his window and you look out of my window, you're looking at two different parts of paradise. Well, I remember we moved in together about 2009, 10, and I'm watching this old fella with a hat walking down the street with two dogs and a cat. And the cat was like the dog, with maybe two cats at the time. I remember the big white one because he used to slip on my windowsill. But we started talking one day, and we just passed it. And I was just kind of like, we moved in, knew we needed to get some work done in the house. And he kind of said, oh, he did electrical work. And we talked a little bit. And he said, oh, by the way, could I borrow your lawnmower? And that started us off. And that lawnmower went back and forth a few times. And Eric came over, and we spent quite a few times. We worked in the crawl space, the attic, or I guess not really an attic, but what they call now underneath the roof. Putting in lights and electrical. We hooked up a lot of things around the house. I put a lot of things on motion detectors, which I like, because where we live, it's dark. It gets dark. There's no lights except what you put up. I don't think there's any street lights. Anyway, then but then eventually I left because I moved to South Carolina, be with Nancy, 'cause that's where I met Nancy. And Eric we weren't, how would you say, really close. But Eric was always someone I could call and say, Eric, I think I might have left my garage door open. Or maybe they're delivering something to the house. And I called Eric or Terry, and they were always very, very graceful. And then when he got sick a few years ago, I knew it was Cat because I would call, and nobody would answer the phone. I'd call the home, I'd call the cell phone, nothing was happening. Eventually, Terry called me and said that Eric was in hospice. And I said, oh, golly, I didn't know. He said, can we come and visit? She says, well, he's coming home. And when we came up, we always visited. And Terry, we always would go visit Eric and Terry. And he was in one of those hospital beds. That's why he looked like death rolled over twice 3 years ago. And, Nancy and I would talk, say, we think, I guess we're going to lose Eric pretty soon. And then, golly, a few weeks later, he's walking down the street with the two dogs and the cat again, with a hat, and it's like Lazarus coming back from the dead. And we were just amazed. And I thought, maybe with a misdiagnosis. I'm in the medical world. You can make mistakes. And he just had this breath of life. He had light up the room. He was an infectious personality. I swear to God. I loved Eric because he always had a smile. But I wrote a little letter to Terry after Eric passed. And I said, one thing he did for me when we were doing our electrical work, and it's so dark, when you drive up my little driveway, you have a pretty big parking place. You can put about 3 or 4 cars. It's so dark at night. And I was making my home a seasonal rental for guests who come in. Many times they come in late at night. And I was going to put up one of these little things you put on the wall, like a little door, door light. And Eric said, no, go big. He said, really, I want you to go big. I want to put something up there. When people come up, they're going to know they've arrived. And when you come up to my house at night, our house, I get about 500 watts. 2 big bulbs. It just lights it up, and it only lasts for but he said, we don't want it all the time. 3 minutes, 5 minutes at the most. People get in. And as I told Terry, I said, Eric he always brought light wherever he came. He never left, because when he left, it was no darkness. And he may have left us, but I think he's left us still a tremendous amount of light. And so we love Eric and Terry, wish them the best. And Eric, we rest in peace.
I
I didn't really get to speak before, but I wanted to very briefly set the record straight on a couple of things. First of all, I was in on the canoe caper. And it truly was. It was an aluminum trough that we paddled across that pond. I think I was 7 and he was 9. And we abandoned it on the other side, figuring no one would ever know. Well, our father found it, and it was Mongo's fault. Another thing, a little more serious, the broken glass episode where I cut my arm. Freddie, at the time, having just become a Boy Scout, had also just learned first aid. He saved my life. And one other thing, just to let people know, and no expectation of anybody participating, I just wanted to let you know something that is going to be happening sometime in the next few months. There's going to be a memorial service for my sister near Rochester, New York. And when I go up for that, there's also going to be an adventure. Terry knows about this. We're going to visit the place where we lived when we were very young, and a couple places there. And then we're going to go up north to the Adirondacks and Camp Bedford, the Boy Scout camp where we went, which Eric dearly loved. The Ausable Club, which was where we all worked, and the golf course. And I'm going to spread some of his ashes in about 20 different places that he named so that he will always physically be there as well as in spirit. I just want to let everybody know that there's further adventure to go. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name's Harvey Connor. I flew down here last night from Vancouver, Canada, and it's a long journey, and I wouldn't have missed it. I've known Eric 27 years, and you know, it's kind of crazy because I speak in front of thousands of people. In fact, we just finished a convention with about 8,000 people where Eric was sorely missed in Utah. And I did one of the sessions in front of that audience, but I'm finding it a little harder to talk today than I did then because it's so emotional. But, you know, I'm a corporate trainer. I've been a veteran leader in the world of direct sales, built enormous organizations in multiple countries. And, you know, people cross your lives, cross your path in life, and they all have grandiose plans and say that what they're going to do. But I've learned over my years that you never listen to what people say, you watch what they do. And you could always count on Eric. He changed a lot of people's lives. And when I see, I know he couldn't talk to me, but I did share a few words with him in the hospice. I think the first time he was in the hospice, he made me laugh because he said when he got out, he thought he didn't understand where he was because he thought they were out of ruins at the local hospital. Or the local hotel, you know, why was he there? But if somebody can fight his way back from that situation, what can people do to change their personal lives and the lives of their families and loved ones by just hanging on to their goals, their dreams? And he was just such a shining example of just sheer will, determination. He'll never be forgotten. I'll close off by saying that our company, which is very heartfelt, with very appreciative of everybody's efforts, the CEO of our company, every event that we have, it's about every 4 months, they have a special session where they come up and they acknowledge heroes of people who have overcome tremendous obstacles in life, whether it be financial or health or whatever, and they did honor Terry and Eric when he came back off of that first hospice. And we get, everybody asks about Eric all the time, and he is sorely missed, but he's with us because he's a long-lasting inspiration of what was possible that first time around. Okay? Thank you very much for hearing from me.
Hi, my name's Eric Monteith. Been a member here at Unity for a bunch of years. Oops, sorry. So everybody's talking about how they knew him, and Eric was a interesting guy. I mean, we both got Eric, you know, so we're walking around, you know, sort of frick and frack sort of thing, you know, and introducing ourselves and talking to people. And I had approached my friend Pete Latrella, the drummer here. We went to high school together, and I was asking him some 3-4 years ago about network marketing. And, you know, who do you know? Who do you know? Who's the movers and the shakers? And he goes, you got to meet Eric Russ. You got to meet Eric Russ. It took us a little while to catch up. And he keeps saying, oh, you got to look at this video. You got to look. I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe. Anyway, so, you know, kind of strange. He says, come on over to the house. Just come on over to the house. And so I went over to the house, watched the video, 7-8 minute video. I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. From there, I met Fred on the phone. I met Harvey on the phone. I met Michael Haney on the phone. I started talking to these different folks, and it just, I don't know, I just felt, you know, like something really, really strange. I talked to my best friend Kim. He talked to folks, and people go, some of you folks have been approached probably or know something about LifeVantage or network marketing. Somebody says, what is that? It's just, well, it's the most efficient way to get product from producer to end line user. And I was like, okay, that makes pretty good sense. And so that was my relationship with Eric, was helping people. And he wanted to do it through LifeVantage. He was passionate. Like I say, if y'all didn't know him too well, and there was this thing, as has been mentioned before, the three-way call. Eric was the best. I would rather have called him than anybody, but as we've talked about how his health would fail, and it was failing, and I would call him, and bless his heart, he could be so weak sounding, you know, on the phone, and he's like, I'm ready for another one. I'm ready for another one. We got to help people. He's talking about helping kids get their parents home. He said, you know, there's so many people out there working, and you know, he didn't have kids of his own, but he said, parents just work themselves, you know, to death. And, you know, I think he was the one that mentioned that parents will spend 90% of the time that they're going to spend with their children before 12 years old. So what happens after 12? Says, kids are gone. I said, wow, how do you get them back? He goes, well, you can ask them to go on a cruise with you. They'll usually do that. You want to go up on, you know, let's go take a mountain vacation. I'm paying for everything. You know, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess that'll kind of get them coming around. And so anyway, so my relationship with Eric was always primarily around this business, but I got to know him as a friend, and we did a lot of different things together. We traveled to different cities in some of these conventions that's been mentioned, and I really felt blessed. You know, roomed with him several times, different cities, and he was just a wonderful person. I got to throw out here. I'm an engineer. He was an engineer. He was, I don't know if his junior or senior year in college of electrical engineering in New York that he dropped out. He had his heart broken. He was dating a woman at college and had his heart broken, and And I was like, wow, that's really powerful. That was just that place where, where he lived was in his heart so much. So I always thought of him as an engineer. I never thought of him as an electrician. So, but that's just one engineer to another. So I want to thank you.
My name is Jim Reed. I'm president of the Board of Trustees here at Unity of the Blue Ridge. Gorgeous colors out there today, folks, gorgeous, just beautiful. This piece is reading is titled, "There Is No Death" by Bishop Brent. I am standing on the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails in the morning breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She's an object of beauty and strength, and I stand and watch her until at length she is a speck of white cloud just where the sea and sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, "There, she's gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight, that is all. She is just as large in mast and hull and spar as she was when she left my side, and she is just as able to bear her load of living weight to her destined harbor. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone at my side says, "There, she's gone," there are other eyes watching her coming, and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, "There she comes," and that is dying.
This is one of, my name's Kat Williams, and I am a regular guest singer here at Unity and a member. And Eric lives a couple, and Terry live just around the corner from myself and my partner. And this is one of his favorite songs, and I remember him singing it, him and I singing it in the living room. And I was just thinking to myself, why is people always trying to take my job? I just don't understand why. So I wish for him that when he's reincarnated, he'll probably come back as a big old black woman singing. Yeah. With a white beard. Yeah.
One, two, three, four.
Blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see. Oh, bluebirds singing a song, nothing but bluebirds all day long. Never saw the sun shine so bright, never saw things looking so right. I notice in the day they're hurrying by. When you're in love, oh how they fly. Those blue days, all of them gone. Nothing but blue skies from now on. Saw the sun. Oh, I'm at the wrong part. Ladies and gentlemen, we are professionals. Please do not try this at home. Blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see. Oh, blue days, all of them gone, nothing but blue skies from now on. Never saw the sun shining so bright, never saw things looking so right. I knew them in the days they're hurrying by. When you're in love, oh, how they fly those blue days. All of them gone, nothing but blue skies, nothing but blue skies, nothing but blue skies from now on.
She's just warming up. She's got one more to sing us out of here that will just light you up, I do believe. On behalf of Terry, Mackenzie, the family, they would like to extend their sincere gratitude for your being here today, for your presence in their lives, for your being here over the past few weeks and months and years, and for what you will continue to share together. You're also invited to enjoy some refreshments and meet the family afterwards. So I'm going to invite you to stand. I believe this is on the back of your program. This is a prayer that we often say in unity. It actually was on the first Apollo that went to the moon, and this is very meaningful to Terry. And so we're going to direct this prayer to Eric together. Would you join me? And it says, the light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. Godspeed, our friend Eric. God bless you all. Would you please give one more round of appreciation to his presence in your lives?
Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. When spirit walks, when spirit walks, when spirit walks, you walk the fears away. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. When spirit walks, when spirit walks, when spirit walks, he walks my fears away. Oh, happy day. He taught me how to walk, talk and pray, talk and pray, and in rejoicing every day.
Thank you so much. Please go enjoy refreshments and circle back around to greet the family when the line is not so long.
I felt inspired.